Day 3 of the book The Crowds of Lourdes by J.K. Huysmans. Now we're going to read a bit about the piscinas, or the baths, and the sick being let down into the bath. He says thus: "And the furious thunder of the Aves starts again. Mary, we love thee. And the rumbling of the Aves redoubles, and the doorways of the piscinas open. People lean forward eagerly to make out the faces of those who are being carried out. They are expecting a cure, and they find bedridden creatures still living to suffer. Alas! For these our supplications on this morning have been in vain. Well, let us look inside and see if, in the default of any complete cure, there may not be some alleviation or amelioration. I cross the ambulance yard and draw aside the bathroom curtain. The first time I entered into these rooms, I met with a surprise. After Zola's narrative, I thought that they must be very large, for he always fills his canvases as if he were a scene painter. I suppose there were at least 3 airy and commodious apartments, with great baths sunk in them, around which the bathers and the sick would be carrying on their exercises with ease. There is nothing of the kind. The rooms are just about the size of cheap cabins for bathers. In the place of a door there was a curtain, then 3 walls. The one at the bottom provided with glazing which gave no light, and on it was painted a figure of the Virgin, and beneath it was a small statue of Our Lady of Lourdes. The 2 others are plain and unadorned partitions. Lastly, in the middle there is sunk a shallow stone bath, into which you descend by a few steps, and the furniture consists of a single chair. It is in this dim chamber that the Virgin, turned into a bath attendant, works. It is in this damp den and with this putrid water that she operates. And you are seized with distress. You almost tremble with drawing suddenly within yourself, and when you reflect that she keeps unseen in this narrow room, that you are perhaps brushing against her, and that in a moment, if she will, she may prove her presence by a cure. You feel you ought to have Bernadette's white soul to dare stay close to her unabashed. You feel yourself so small and indeed rather ashamed of walking about there as a curious inquirer. But after all, you doubtless have your uses, since you have come to pray for the sick, and are speaking to her, not of yourself, but of them. And you look for her in a mechanical way, and all you see is her poor effigy, painted on a window pane or modeled in plaster. You look into the water, which might reflect her smile, if it had not lost the power of reflecting any sort of likeness after being muddied with the bathing of so many wounds. It is opaque and dead, and nevertheless it is alive. And ever since the apparitions, ready to obey the orders of prophet and psalmist who bade it, long before her son was born, celebrate his praises. And it does so by proclaiming his miracles, now that it has been chosen by his mother as a vehicle of healing. This morning, the narrow corridor leading to the antechamber for disrobing and to the bathers' rooms is blocked up with occupied stretchers at the time of my arrival. An old gentleman with a head like an egg, bald on top and hairy down below, is rushing about in a cyclist's getup. He gives orders with an offhand swagger, lectures the bathers, writes down the number of baths in a pocketbook with an important air, and acts the part of the big fly on the wheel in a style to make one laugh, were it not for the sadness of the sight before one's eyes. Now they're doing their utmost to undress a sick man whose back is one great sore. A horrible corpse-like smell of pus takes you by the throat. The man is torn in twain and groans with his mouth widely open, exposing his teeth. For modesty's sake, they fasten a waistcloth around him. A belt is slipped under his loins, and with all the adroitness they can muster, the 4 bath attendants let him down into the piscina. On coming in contact with the chilly water, all his skin seems to ripple over his body in waves. He suffocates. With his head thrown back upon his shoulders, they pull him out, and without wiping him dry, put on his clothes and carry him off. All this time one has done one's best to pray. But how can anyone get beyond labial prayer? How think of what one is saying? The patient has half swooned away and does not know where he is, and the sick attendants are engrossed in their hard and trying work. And I, while I beg for the cure of this poor man, am distracted by the sight before me. So the only thing to reckon upon as of any real use must be the more unhampered supplication outside, which I can hear going on with vehemence as soon as the curtain is drawn up. And it falls upon a new litter which is being brought in. From it emerges a being who is bent double, whose face is haggard with suffering and leaves me utterly upset. Oh, the pity of it! His wrappings are taken off with his flannel waistcoat. He is a skeleton streaming with perspiration. They let him down gently into the water. He clenches it in his fists and his throat rattles. He is taken out and put back on his stretcher, still wet. And now comes another. What a look is his! 2 gas jets lighted in the eye sockets of death's head, and yet raised in hope or cast down in defeat. They strip him of his shirt. It is flecked here and there with spots of gum and of fresh blood, and stiffened elsewhere with marks of dry humor, which make it look like a sticking plaster. And the man displays great pomegranate-like hollows in his sides. As soon as he's in the water, he pants hoarsely, with his eyes staring out of his head, and wads of lint, which had not been removed float about. They take him out, and after dipping them in the piscina, they plaster his linen dressings on him somehow or other. And a young priest, lying on a mattress, fully dressed, comes next. He's dying of some kind of heart disease in its last stage. They unbutton his casque and take off his shirt, and on the order of the gentleman who registers the baths in his pocketbook, only a few lotions are applied to his chest. The bearers return once more. Fearful screams break out. The cries of a child begging not to be put into the bath. And we'll stop there today.